Michigan SoilWorks is now Wormgear. I'm here today with Dan Lonowski, the owner and founder, and we are going to talk a little bit about why he is rebranding from Michigan SoilWorks to Wormgear and why he's adding the tagline Tools for Vermiculture. So let's dive right in. My name is Tim Stecke. I have helped Dan. I own the compost marketing agency, so we've been working on this rebrand, and yeah, today is the final day. We can finally reveal what we've been working on for the last few months. And let me start out by asking you, Dan, how did we get to this point? You've been selling commercial vermicomposting equipment for about 6 years now, and you had a really good and established brand. Michigan SoilWorks has become a known name across the United States and worldwide for your modular system that you've been offering. So why did you decide to change now? There's always a little bit of risk when you have an established brand to, you know, take the old and come in with the new. So why is
Yeah,
Michigan SoilWorks now Wormgear?
yeah. Well, it's clear, as you said, Michigan SoilWorks is recognized as the market leader for continuous flow systems. But when we selected that name 6 years ago or so, we were really more broadly focused on soil amendments or vermicompost production, not so much the equipment. And we wanted to focus on building a supply base here in the Great Lakes area in the state of Michigan.
Hmm.
So the name Michigan SoilWorks sort of came out of that to be prepared for that market. But it became clear after the first couple of years that our real strength, our value proposition in the language of 10 years ago or so,
Yeah.
was in the equipment, in the hardware that enabled us to produce that consistent, good quality vermicompost. So we became less on Michigan, less on soil, and more on the equipment, the tools, the
Hmm.
gear.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's always a little bit of risk for an established brand like yours, and quite frankly, a market leader in what you're doing. You know, rebrand. But I think in your case, it definitely makes sense. We're also adding the tagline "Tools for Vermiculture." So does that mean you're also expanding your product line?
Yes, we plan to introduce a couple new products here over the next 6 months, and we have visions for what can happen beyond that as well. Um, we started out years ago. Uh, a friend of mine asked me to build him
Hmm.
a continuous flow system. And that came about because after looking for what was available in the marketplace, we didn't really see something that looked
Hmm.
like a good investment for us. And as an engineer myself, anything I looked at, I thought there was a better way to do it. So I built one for my friend Gavin Newton at Worm Cycle, and wasn't long before he wanted another one and another one. And then we also built a conveyor or two. So we've dabbled in a couple other things
Hmm.
besides the continuous flow systems over time. But our forte has really been in perfecting the continuous flow vermicomposter.
I also know that there is one specific product coming out, probably in the next six months. Tell me a little bit about that product.
We have a couple screeners coming up.
Hmm.
Um, the first one that's going to hit the market basically is almost by accident. It's just a matter of the timing of the developments involved, but it's a more geared toward the consumer market, and that is a new alternate for a screening for home use,
Hmm.
and we're going to call that the turbo sifter. The turbo sifter is no wood, no hardware cloth, no frames and such, but it's all stainless steel, so it does not contaminate anything. No slivers, no cuts. It's not exactly do it yourself, but it gives you an option to purchase a professional quality tool for home use. I kind of think of like consumer products, consumer electronics. you wouldn't make your own iPhone. And this is a good quality piece of equipment, but geared for home vermicomposters.
Yeah, so I can relate. I myself have been a vermicomposter on a very small scale, so I know the pain of screening or sifting. It can be very laborious, and it's actually a bottleneck, or it's a big time constraint if you're hand sifting your castings. And it's probably also a reason why a lot of the smaller producers have to sell their castings at a higher price point or more in smaller bags than bulk producers, because the cost is in the labor of sifting and preparing the vermicastings for market, I guess. So that's going to be interesting, because even the smaller producers have an impact on our on agriculture, in the local sense, I guess.
And everybody starts out somewhere, and they typically start out small. You don't want to make a big investment in equipment until you know you can make a go of it.
Yeah.
So this is a good starting place for many
Yes.
people, I think.
So it could be the first step into becoming a little bit more professional, and for those that do vermiculture as a side hustle, or some sort of yeah. So I guess
But I would add that this is really more of a consumer product, and not in our core product line. We'll continue to focus primarily on commercial type equipment, and the
yeah,
second screener that we'll be coming out with will be an alternative that fills the gap between the large trommel screeners on one side
yeah.
and this DIY type of screener on another. It'll be a table screener, a vibratory surface that is more affordable and very reliable, quiet.
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit already. So you're selling, you're going to sell to the smaller scale or home vermicomposters, but your main focus is still on the
Oh, yes,
commercial side of production.
absolutely.
So who is it that you're actually selling these systems to? Why are they purchasing them? And tell me a little bit about the audience.
Most of our customers the majority of them are producing crops, you can say,
Hmm.
or producing soil for crop producers. So in the first case, you have agricultural suppliers. They may be orchards and vineyards and greenhouses, cannabis growers. These are the people that are using a lot of worm castings. Uh, some of them produce their own castings, but some of them don't want to get involved with that. They would rather buy pre-blended growing medium from someone who does that for them on a reliable basis. So that's a big part of our customer base, are those soil blenders, and they're producing soils for the growers.
Hmm.
Besides that, then we also sell to academics, colleges, and secondary schools on a vocational level. And then we also have a small percentage, 10 or 15%, that are primarily focused on dealing with their waste stream of some kind.
Hmm.
They're not so much interested in the compost primarily, but they have a sustainable goal to take care of their waste stream in a responsible way. And they can do that by composting organic waste, and they can derive more value from it by vermicomposting it.
Yeah, essentially upcycling their waste stream, and then
Exactly.
yeah, I mean potentially adding a revenue stream by transforming their waste.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at what point would it make sense to start producing your own vermicastings instead of buying them in bulk? Is it 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yards? I guess there must be some sort of tipping point where, on one hand, you might just buy them from the soil makers, or those producers that you mentioned. But if you have a larger growing operation, where's the tipping point?
Well, each module, so to speak, can
Hmm.
produce 5 cubic yards over the course of a year. So you can decide whether it makes sense or not to produce according to that. Many people want to just bring their own manufacturing in-house to have a vertical control of their supply base.
Yeah.
And so the economics is one side, but the practicality and the supply base is another concern you have to keep in mind.
Yeah, so that you have more tight control over the feedstock that goes into your vermicastings, I guess. Okay. Well, okay, let's wrap this up, Dan. Thanks for sharing your story with me and the audience. I would
My pleasure.
Yeah, I would just add that anybody that wants some more background information, just go to wormgear.com, check it out, reach out to Dan if you have any questions. If you're maybe planning to start your own commercial vermicomposting operation. And yeah, make sure you follow us on our on the social media channels. And let me just say thanks for your time. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye-bye.